Sometimes the moment you decide, "I'm done," is the exact moment the universe whispers, "Good, now watch what happens next." My friends, before you give up, pause. Right before you let go, right before you delete the chats, right before you convince yourself they're never coming back, something powerful is usually happening that you can't see yet. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Hey folks, imagine this. You're standing at a train station. You've been waiting for one train for so long that your legs hurt. Every time you hear a sound, you look up. Is that it? Is that them? But it keeps passing you by. Wrong train, wrong destination, wrong timing. At some point, you're tired. You think, maybe I should just go home. Maybe my train is never coming. What nobody tells you is this. Sometimes your train doesn't arrive until you stop staring at the tracks like your entire life depends on it. Sometimes the moment you pick up your bag, stretch your legs and say, "You know what? I'm not begging for this ride anymore," is the moment the train finally decides to show up. We've been fed a lot of lies about love and attention. If they're not chasing you, they don't care. If they're not texting, you don't matter. If they can live without you, you were never important. That sounds harsh, and yes, sometimes it's true, but not always. Life, humans, and emotions are not that simple. Pride is loud, ego is stubborn, fear of vulnerability is real. Some people don't reach out, not because they don't feel anything, but because they feel too much and don't know how to handle it. Here's the twist, my friends. The energy right before you give up is sacred. It's like the last few seconds before sunrise. The sky still looks dark, and you're tempted to say, "Forget it, the light is never coming." But if you walk away too early, you don't get to see how close you were to a completely different picture. And yes, let's be a little real and a little funny for a second. You know that feeling when you're looking for your keys, you're angry, throwing things around. "I swear they vanished from this planet." And then you finally say, "Forget it, I'm not going." And boom, they're sitting on the table in front of your face, like they've been laughing at you the whole time. That's how emotions work sometimes. The moment you stop frantically searching outside, things start showing up. I'm not saying everyone who leaves will come back. I'm not here to sell you a fantasy. I'm here to remind you of a deeper truth. The moment you stop begging for what you deserve, the whole energy of the story changes. Before they notice your absence, you have to notice your own presence. Your value doesn't decrease because someone is too blind, too scared, or too proud to see it. Remember that. Write it down if you have to. Tattoo it on your mind, not your skin. Unless you really want to, then hey, your choice, my friends. In this video, we're going to break the lie that nothing is happening just because they're silent. We're going to talk about what really happens on their side, what shifts on your side, and why the story is never as simple as they don't care. We'll bring Stoicism into this, not as coldness, but as emotional wisdom. So stay with me till the end. You are going to see your situation in a completely different light. You are not crazy for feeling this way. You are not weak for wanting them back. But you are stronger than you think, and you deserve to see what happens when you stop chasing and start choosing yourself. If you're still here, I want you to claim this in the comments right now. I choose my peace. Type it below, hit the like button, make sure you're subscribed, and stay with me. Because what happens right before they come back might shock you, but what happens inside you will change everything. Number 1. The night you almost give up. Sometimes the night you whisper, "I'm done," is the same night your old self dies and your stronger self quietly wakes up. There is always that one night, my friends, where everything feels heavier than usual, the silence is louder, The room feels smaller, and your own thoughts won't leave you alone. This isn't just another sad evening. This is the night you almost give up. The night where the story in your mind shifts from maybe they'll come back to maybe I was never enough. And that shift is dangerous because it doesn't just question them, it starts attacking you. Imagine you're standing in the middle of a bridge at midnight. There is fog all around you. You can't see what's ahead, and when you look back, you only see the path you've already walked with them. Every step you took, every message you sent, every chance you gave feels like a weight on your shoulders. The bridge represents your life between your past with them and your future without them, and you're stuck in the middle, looking down at the water thinking, do I go back or do I jump into the unknown? That's what this night feels like. It feels like emotional free fall with no guarantee of a landing. On this night, your mind becomes a lawyer against you. It starts pulling out every insecurity like evidence. If you were really special, they wouldn't have left. If you mattered, they would have checked on you by now. If they haven't messaged by this point, it means they never cared. You know those lines, you've heard them in your head before. You might be hearing them right now, and every time they echo your chest, tightens a bit more, because they sound so logical, so final, so brutally honest. But here's the truth, my friends. Those thoughts are not facts. They are fears dressed up as logic. Fear is clever. It doesn't scream. It whispers with just enough reason that you start believing it. You ask yourself questions that have no clear answers. Why didn't they fight for me? Why can they live without me so easily? Why am I the only one still hurting? Why am I sitting here staring at my phone like it's a lifeline while they're out laughing, posting, moving on? You scroll through their feed. You see a smile, and instantly your brain writes a whole story. See, they're fine, you meant nothing. But you forget something very important. People can post 1,000 things and still be empty when the screen goes off. A smile online is not a medical report on the heart, and you know that because you've done it too. You've posted a picture and looked good while feeling broken inside. There's a quote I love, "Never trust your mind when your heart is tired." And this night is exactly that. Your heart is exhausted, your mind is spinning, and together they create illusions that feel like reality. You start believing that your pain is proof of your failure, that the fact you still care makes you weak, that because you're still here and they're not, you somehow lost. But my friends, you're not losing, you're feeling, and that's different. Don't confuse the two. The ability to feel deeply is not a curse. It's a sign that your heart is still alive. Why is this night so difficult? Because it's the first time you truly face the idea that the story might not end the way you wanted. There is a tiny funeral happening in your chest for the future you imagined, for the conversations you thought you'd have, for the life you were quietly planning with them. And grief is painful, even if the person is still alive somewhere else. You're not just losing them, you're letting go of the version of yourself that believed they were the only chapter that mattered, and that realization hurts like hell. Most people were never taught how to sit with this kind of pain. They were taught to distract, swipe, scroll, drink, text. Someone else pretend everything is fine or go running back the moment the anxiety spikes. That's why this night feels like an emergency. Your brain wants an instant fix. If I just message them one more time, maybe I'll feel better. If I just hear their voice, I'll calm down. But that's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. The temporary relief you're chasing is the same thing that keeps you stuck in the cycle. Here's the lie you need to break tonight. The lie that says, if I stop trying, it means I never really loved them. No stopping doesn't erase your love. It protects your sanity. There is a difference between loving someone and letting them use your heart as a revolving door. Real love does not require you to burn yourself just to keep someone else warm. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself, and even for them, is to step back and stop begging reality to be different. Think of a seed buried under the soil. It looks like nothing is happening. It looks dark. It looks lonely. If the seed could talk, it might say, "I've been abandoned." But in truth, that darkness is where roots are forming. That heaviness is where strength is building. You are that seed on this night. Your mind thinks you're being buried. Life is secretly planting you for something deeper, stronger, calmer, and yes, better. I want you to notice this too, on this night. When you almost give up, you are also the most honest with yourself for once. You're not busy editing your feelings to look chill for them. You're not pretending to be okay. You're not trying to sound unbothered. You're finally saying, "This hurts," and that honesty is the first brick in the foundation of your healing. You cannot build a peaceful life on top of lies you tell yourself. My friends, you think this is the night you break, but it might be the night you begin. You're not weak because you cried. You're not pathetic because you still check your phone. You're a human being with a real heart that cared deeply, the same heart that will one day love again, but this time with more wisdom and stronger boundaries. So tonight, instead of sending that long message you'll regret, instead of begging for a response that only feeds your anxiety, I want you to do something different. I want you to choose yourself, even if your voice shakes. I want you to sit with the discomfort and still say, "I deserve someone who doesn't make me feel like a backup plan." Your fear will argue, your mind will try to scare you with, "What if they never come back?" But remember this, if losing you doesn't wake them up, they were never meant to stand beside the version of you that's waking up now. Let this night be the night you turn the pain into a promise that you will no longer abandon yourself to avoid being abandoned by someone else. Even if they do come back later, they should meet a you that chose growth over begging, peace over chaos, self-respect over crumbs. If you're still here listening to this part, I want you to write something powerful in the comments, not for me, for you and for everyone reading it. I want you to type, "I choose myself now." Write it to show them, show yourself, show the world around you that this night might be heavy, but it is not the end. It's a turning point. And in the next part, we're going to talk about what quietly starts happening on their side when your energy finally begins to shift, even when you think nothing is happening at all. Number 2, when your energy quietly detaches. Detachment isn't when you stop caring, it's when you stop sacrificing your peace for someone who doesn't. There comes a point, my friends, where something inside you starts to shift in a way that's almost invisible from the outside. You don't wake up one morning and suddenly feel nothing. It isn't that dramatic. It happens slowly, like a dimmer switch, not a light switch. At first, you're still checking your phone the same way, still overthinking the same way, still replaying old conversations in your head. But somewhere under all of that, a new thought begins to whisper, "I can't keep living like this." That whisper is the birth of detachment. Imagine you've been holding a heavy bag in your hand for hours. At first, you tell yourself, "I can handle it. It's not that bad." But the longer you hold it, the more your fingers start to ache, your arm feels numb, your shoulder tightens up. You look at your hand and realize the marks are from something you chose to keep holding. Detachment is the moment you finally decide to put the bag down. The bag is still there. You can pick it up again if you want to. But your body, your mind, your heart get a moment to breathe and remember what it feels like not to be in constant strain. That's what happens when your energy begins to pull back from someone you've been emotionally carrying for far too long. At first, your mind fights it. You might ask yourself, if I stop thinking about them all the time, does that mean I never really loved them? If I stop checking their profile, does that mean I've given up? If I stop trying, what if they finally reach out and I miss it? These questions come from fear, not from truth. Fear tells you that your only proof of love is constant suffering. Fear tells you that letting go of obsession means you've failed. But real love does not require you to stay in emotional pain like it's a contract. Real love, especially for yourself, gives you permission to rest. You start making small choices that don't seem like a big deal to anyone else. You don't open their chat first thing in the morning. You don't stalk their stories to decode hidden messages. You don't write out long paragraphs in your notes app and then delete them. Instead, you do something simple like making your bed, going for a walk, listening to a song that isn't tied to them. It may sound small, even silly, but these are the first signs that your energy is redirecting away from them and back toward you. It's like your soul slowly gathering its pieces from where you scattered them. Here's the part people don't talk about enough. They feel this, even if they don't say it. There is a shift when someone stops energetically chasing you. It's like background noise suddenly goes quiet. They might not understand what changed, but something feels different. The late-night comfort of, "Oh, they'll always be there," starts to fade. They check their notifications and there's nothing from you. They post something attention-grabbing and you don't bite. They throw out a breadcrumb and you don't chase it. Your silence starts to feel less like an accident and more like a decision. That realization lands heavier than any argument you ever tried to have with them. You might have moments where this new distance scares you. You'll think, wait, I don't feel the same intensity. Am I becoming cold? What if they reach out and I'm not as available as before? What if this calm means I'm losing them? But my friends, listen to this carefully. You're not losing them. You're losing the version of yourself that tolerated emotional chaos as normal. You're not going numb. You're stabilizing. There is a huge difference between shutting down and calming down. One is trauma. The other is healing. There's a quote that fits here. You don't abandon people, you abandon patterns. You're not abandoning the idea of love or connection. You're abandoning the pattern where you were always the one over-explaining, over-giving, and overthinking. When your energy quietly detaches, you're teaching your nervous system a new language, one where your worth isn't decided by someone else's responses. Of course, this isn't easy. You'll have days where you feel strong and other days where the urge to reach out hits you like a wave. There will be moments where your thumb hovers over their name and you think, what's the harm in one message? There will be nights where a memory blindsides you and you miss them so much it feels physical. Detachment doesn't erase those moments. It just teaches you not to build your entire life around them. You can miss someone and still choose yourself. You can remember the good parts and still accept that the whole thing wasn't safe for your peace. Think of your energy as a house. For a long time, you left all the doors and windows open. Any time they wanted, they could walk in, take what they wanted, leave a mess, and disappear again. Detachment is not boarding up the house and living in darkness. It's closing the doors, locking the windows, and deciding who gets a key. It's understanding that access to you is a privilege, not a default setting. The more your energy pulls back and recenters, the more they feel that they no longer have the same casual pass they once took for granted. And here's where it becomes powerful. When your energy is no longer wrapped around them, they lose a sense of control. The ego hates that. That's often when they start testing the waters, sending those strange little messages, lurking your stories, trying to stir some reaction. But by that time, if you stay consistent with your detachment, you're not as easily moved. The same tricks don't work on someone who has remembered their own value. Your calm becomes confusing to them. Your distance becomes a mirror. You may not realize it yet, but this season where your energy quietly detaches is not just about them. It's about you meeting yourself again without their shadow over your shoulder. You start asking different questions, not, why wasn't I enough for them, but Why did I think they were the only ones worthy of all this love I carry? That's a shift in power. That's self-respect waking up. My friends, if you're at this stage, don't underestimate what's happening. It might not look dramatic on the surface, but inside you, entire belief systems are being rewritten. You are teaching your heart that it is allowed to loosen its grip. You are teaching your mind that peace is more important than constant emotional drama. You are teaching your soul that it is safe to move on, even if your memories still ache. This is not you becoming heartless. This is you finally becoming whole. If this part is speaking to you, if you feel that quiet shift happening, I want you to claim it publicly, not for them, but for you and for anyone scrolling through the comments feeling alone. Type this in the comments right now. My energy is mine. Let it be your reminder, your declaration, your line in the sand. Show them, show yourself, show the world that you are learning the art of detachment, not as punishment, but as protection. And in the next part, we'll go even deeper into what's quietly brewing on their side while you step into this new, calmer version of you. Number 3. The storm on their side that you never see. Just because the sky looks clear from where you stand doesn't mean there isn't a storm raging somewhere you can't see. My friends, from your side it looks simple. They're fine, you're not. They're posting, you're overthinking, they're laughing, you're staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., wondering how someone can walk away from everything you felt, as if it was nothing at all, and that hurts in a very specific way, not just because they left, but because their silence makes you believe your love was insignificant. You think, if they really cared, they would be here. If I mattered, they would have reached out by now. If they can sleep at night, I must have been a joke. These thoughts cut deep because they sound like facts, but most of the time they're not facts, they're conclusions built from what you can see, and what you can see is only half the story. Imagine a house on a hill from the outside. The windows look calm, the curtains are neat, the lights are off. It looks peaceful, quiet, untouched, but inside the pipes are shaking. The wind is rattling the doors, things are falling off. Shelves inside there is chaos. The storm is loud, but if you stand at a distance and just glance, you'd say, everything looks fine. That's what happens with them. You see the outside of their life, a photo here, a story there, maybe a video of them out with friends, smiling under colorful lights, but you don't see what happens when they're alone in bed, when the music is off and the crowd is gone. The storm doesn't post itself on social media. There's a lie we've all been taught. If they don't show it, they don't feel it. But some of the people who look the most unbothered are actually the most emotionally flooded inside. They've just spent a lifetime learning how to hide it. They were trained to swallow feelings before they reach the surface. Maybe they were told, don't be weak, don't show emotion, never let anyone know they got to you. So when they start to miss you, it doesn't look like a romantic movie scene with tears and flowers. It looks like avoidance, scrolling, distraction, staying busy. It looks like them typing your name into the search bar and then pretending they just stumbled on your profile. It looks like them hovering over your chat, believing that if they ignore the urge long enough, it will disappear. They replay moments you don't know. They replay the last conversation where they were short with you and regret the tone. They replay the time you said, "This is hurting me," and they brushed it off. They replay the comfort of your presence, the way you understood their mood without them needing to explain it, and the strange emptiness that replaced it. They might even get irritated at themselves for thinking about you. Why am I still stuck on this? I'm fine. That's the ego arguing with the truth inside them. The ego hates the idea that it misjudged you or took you for granted, so it tries to fight the storm with denial, but storms don't leave because you say there is no rain. You may imagine them sleeping peacefully while you toss and turn, but often their peace is just a mask they put on for the world. They have their own late nights, their own sudden memories, their own flashbacks that catch them off guard in the middle of something ordinary. A song plays, and suddenly they feel a sting. They see something you once did together, and their chest tightens for half a second, but they quickly shake it off, change the track scroll faster, call, someone go out, anything to outrun the wave. This is the part of the story you never witness, because pride doesn't allow them to expose it. There's a quote that fits them perfectly. Some people don't heal, they just hide what hurts them better. And that's what you're up against, not a lack of feeling, but a lack of emotional courage. They're not just battling the loss of you, they're battling their own reflection, because to admit they miss you means admitting they mishandled you, and that is a hard mirror to look into. Their silence toward you is often noise inside their own head. They argue with their thoughts, they justify what they did. It needed to end. They were too much. I had to protect myself. But these justifications start sounding thinner over time, especially when your absence is no longer filled by your messages. Does that mean every silent ex is suffering secretly? No, my friends. Some people really do move on without much depth, and that's their path. But for the one who connected with you for real, for the one who felt safe with you, and then let ego make the decisions, there is almost always a storm they face later, a storm of realizing that the stability you gave them was rare, that the effort you put in doesn't come easily from everyone, that the peace they felt around you isn't something they've found in the faces they distract themselves with. Why is it important for you to understand this? Not so you can sit and wait for their regret, like it's a movie you're hoping to see, but so you stop using their visible behavior as the only scale for your worth. You are not worthless because they're quiet. You're not forgettable because they haven't sent that message. Your value does not shrink just because someone is too proud or too emotionally unskilled to admit they feel your absence. Your mind loves to say, "Their calm means I didn't matter." But very often their calm is simply delayed chaos. The storm on their side doesn't always show up on your timeline. It shows up in their private life, in the overloaded mind, in the restless nights, in the tension they carry into other connections. The part of them that once felt grounded by your energy now has to face what life feels like without that anchor, and whether they ever tell you or not, they feel the difference. I want you to hear me clearly. You do not need their secret storm as proof that you were valuable. You were valuable regardless. But if your heart keeps tormenting you with the idea that they never cared at all, let this be a gentle challenge to that belief. People act strong to avoid feeling weak. They act distant to avoid being rejected. They act indifferent to avoid admitting they messed up. Their performance is not the full truth. If this resonates with you, if you've been torturing yourself imagining they're completely untouched while you're drowning, I want you to claim a new story in the comments right now. Type, "I am not invisible." Write it to show them. Show yourself. Show the world that even if you never see their storm, you refuse to measure your worth by someone else's silence. And in the next part, we're going to talk about the strange signs, the little cracks that show up right before they circle back, the things they do that seem random, but are actually them testing the door to see if your heart is still open. Number 4, the strange signs right before they come back. Most people don't walk back into your life with honesty first. They walk back in with tests. My friends, this is where things start getting weird. Not dramatic, not romantic, just weird from your side. It feels like the universe is glitching. You're finally starting to calm down a little bit. You're not checking your phone every 5 minutes. You're building new habits, breathing a bit easier, and then out of nowhere you see it, a random like on an old picture, a view on your story, after weeks of silence, a hey that shows up in your inbox with no context, and your heart drops into your stomach because suddenly all the feelings you've been trying to manage wake up again. It feels confusing because for a long time, silence was the only language between you two. Nothing came in, nothing went out, no clarity, just a big empty space. And now that you've started to adjust to that emptiness, they break the pattern, but not with a real conversation, not with an apology, not with, "Hey, I've been thinking about what happened." No, they start with something small, something that doesn't cost them much ego, a reaction to a story, an emoji, a song shared a late night you up, or been a while, as if they didn't help create the distance that's been eating you alive. Imagine you're in your house and someone who used to come in and out like they owned the place just disappeared one day, no explanation, no goodbye, just gone. You finally cleaned up. You rearranged the furniture. You started to feel comfortable in your space again. Then one night you hear a soft knock, not at the front door where real visitors come, but at the window, a tap, tap, tap. You pull the curtain back, and there they are, not stepping up to the door like an adult, just peeking in to see if the lights are still on. That's what these strange signs are, not a real return, just a window knock. They want to know, are you still available to me? Without having to admit, I want to come back in. And I know what happens in your mind the moment you see that notification. Your heart races, your thoughts speed up. Does this mean they miss me? Are they finally realizing what they lost? Should I respond? What if this is our second chance? And mixed with that hope, there's fear. What if they just want attention again? What if this is just boredom? What if I fall for it and end up in the same pain? You're standing at an emotional crossroads. One path leads to all your old habits, the other leads to the self-respect you've been slowly building. Here's the hard truth, my friends. A lot of the time, their first contact is not about love, it's about ego. They can sense your energy has shifted, you're not orbiting them the way you used to. Their comfort blanket is missing, so they send these little signals not to check if you're okay, but to check if they still have pull in your life. It's less, how are you, and more, do I still matter enough to control your mood? That's why it feels so destabilizing when they pop up. Your nervous system remembers the old roller coaster, even if your mind knows better now. There's a quote I want you to hold on to. Attention is not affection, and access is not accountability. Just because they looked at your story does not mean they've grown. Just because they liked your post does not mean they're ready. Just because they texted, "Hey stranger," does not mean they've faced themselves. These signs may mean they're uncomfortable with the distance. Yes, but discomfort is not the same as transformation. You have to be careful not to confuse curiosity with commitment. Sometimes they'll use very subtle bait, a song that meant something to both of you posted on their story, a caption that sounds suspiciously like something you once said, a picture from a place you went together, or they suddenly start showing up in mutual circles. Again, not by accident but by design. They want you to wonder, they want you to think, is that for me? Because wondering keeps you energetically tied to them without them having to actually step up and talk like a grown human being. It's like they're throwing pebbles at the door of your heart instead of knocking properly. The problem is every pebble makes a sound, and if you haven't healed enough, those little sounds can wake up parts of you that were finally resting. This is why it feels so powerful when they do something tiny. It's not the action itself. It's the memories it triggers, the hope it lights up, the what if your mind begins to build again. Why do they do this? Because direct vulnerability is terrifying for people who run from their own feelings. It's much easier to send a half-hearted signal than to say, I miss you. I regret how I handled things. I was wrong. So they hide inside these half moves. They want you to do the heavy lifting again. They want you to be the one who takes their vague sign and turns it into a full sentence. They knock from a distance, hoping you'll open the door wide like before. But my friends, you're not the same person anymore. You've walked through too many long nights to throw your peace away for 3 words and a heart emoji. You've cried too many tears to fall for an indirect gesture that costs them nothing and costs you your stability again. This is where your growth has to speak louder than your loneliness. I'm not saying every sign is bad, not every return is toxic. Some people genuinely wake up, they genuinely feel the loss, they genuinely want to make things right. But even then, you need more than hints. You need effort, not just energy pings, not just digital ghosts pressing like at 2 a.m. If they truly want another chance, they have to step out of the shadows and speak clearly, because this time your heart requires clarity, not confusion. So when these signs start showing up, story views, random texts, nostalgic songs, I want you to pause and ask yourself a better question, not do they miss me, but have I healed enough to handle this without losing myself again? Because that answer matters more than anything they do if responding pulls you back into obsession, overthinking, and anxiety. You're not ready if you can look at their name and still feel rooted in your peace, then you're not the same person they left behind, and that's power. The point of all this is not to make you paranoid, it's to make you aware, so you don't assign more meaning to their crumbs than they deserve. You are not a starving soul, desperate for any drop of attention. Your heart is not a playground where someone can wander in and out, testing the equipment. Whenever they're bored, you are allowed to observe without engaging. You are allowed to feel the old emotions rise and still choose not to act on them. If this section is hitting home, if you've seen these strange signs and started doubting yourself again, I want you to claim back your awareness in the comments right now. Type, "I see the signs clearly." Write it not just as a sentence, but as a promise to yourself. Show them, show yourself. Show the world that you are no longer blinded by breadcrumbs. And in the next part, we're going to talk about something even more important: why not every return is a blessing, and how to tell when their comeback is about love and when it's just about filling a temporary void. Number 5. Not every return is a blessing. Someone coming back doesn't always mean they woke up. Sometimes it just means their comfort got disturbed. My friends, this is the part no one wants to hear, but you need it more than the fairy tale. We grow up on stories where "they came back" is the happy ending. The door opens, they stand there with changed eyes, soft music plays in the background, and suddenly all the pain disappears. In real life, it's not that simple. In real life, people come back for all kinds of reasons, and many of them have nothing to do with real love or real change. The hardest thing you'll ever do is not just wait for their return, but actually question it when it shows up. Imagine your heart is a house. For a long time, one person walked in and out without wiping their feet, dragging in mud, leaving dishes in the sink, slamming doors, and disappearing whenever they felt like it. One day you finally cleaned everything, lit a candle, opened the windows, and said to yourself, "No more chaos in here." Then suddenly there's a knock. It's them. Same shoes, same attitude, different day. The old you would throw the door wide open just because they showed up. The version of you that's growing has to pause and ask, are you coming in to live differently or just to mess up the place again? When they come back, your feelings will rush to the front first. Your heart will remember the good moments, the laughter, the chemistry, the way they made your chest feel full. Your mind will start writing a story. Maybe they realized I was the one. Maybe they've grown up now. Maybe this time will be different. But Stoicism teaches you something powerful. Feelings are real, but they are not the full truth. You can feel longing and still ask hard questions. You can feel love and still require proof. The truth is, people come back for many reasons. Sometimes they miss your kindness. Sometimes they're lonely and you are the safest energy they know. Sometimes their rebound didn't work out. Sometimes their ego got bruised somewhere else and they want to refill it with your attention. Sometimes they just want to check if you still care so they can feel important again. And yes, sometimes they genuinely regret what they did and want to fix it. The trick is learning to tell the difference, not with your fantasy, but with your eyes open. You'll notice patterns if you slow down enough. Do they talk about the past with honesty, or do they pretend nothing really happened? Do they acknowledge the hurt they caused, or do they say things like, "Let's just move on," because they don't want to feel uncomfortable? Do they ask about how you've been healing, or do they only talk about how much they miss what you used to give them? Real change doesn't just say, "I miss you." It says, "I understand what I did, and I'm willing to do the work, so it never happens again." There's a quote I want you to hold on to. An apology without changed behavior is just a strategy, not growth. That's where a lot of people get trapped. They hear, "I'm sorry, I've been thinking about you, I made a mistake." And that's all their heart needed to jump right back in. But if nothing in their actions, consistency, or emotional maturity is different, you're not stepping into a new chapter, you're stepping back into the same cycle with new wallpaper. Why is it so hard to question their return? Because part of you is tired of being strong. You're tired of pretending you're fine. You're tired of being alone with your memories. When they come back, it feels like relief. You think, finally, all this pain meant something. Finally, they chose me. You want the story to make sense. You want your suffering to have a reward. But my friends, your healing is not a test they need to pass so you can win them. Your healing is a path you walk so you can win yourself. Not every return is a blessing. Sometimes it's a retest. Life asking you, have you learned what you needed to learn? Will you protect your peace this time? Will you choose yourself even while your heart is screaming their name? That's what makes this stage so powerful. This is where you prove to yourself that your standards are not just quotes you repost. They are boundaries you live by. You have to start asking new questions, not, do they still want me? But, does this version of them deserve this version of me? Not, what if I never get another chance with them? But, what happens to my life if I let the wrong energy back in? Not, what if I lose them forever? But, what if I lose myself again trying to keep them? The person you've become in their absence is proof that you can survive without them. Do not trade that proof for another round of emotional chaos. Think of your heart like a garden. It took time to pull out the weeds, to water yourself, to sit in your own company until it was no longer a prison, but a home. If someone wants to come back into that garden, they don't get to stomp around like before. They need to be willing to plant, to protect, to respect the space. If all they bring is old habits and pretty words, they're not a blessing. They're a storm dressed like sunshine. And here's the beautiful thing. When you get this lesson, really get it, you stop seeing their return as a prize. You start seeing your choice as the real power. Whether you say yes or no, whether you give them a chance or close that chapter for good, you're doing it from clarity, not desperation. That is emotional freedom. That is Stoic strength in action. If this is speaking to you, if you've ever taken someone back just because you were afraid to let go, I want you to write something bold in the comments. Not for them, but for you and for everyone who needs to see it. Type, "I protect my peace." Let it be your declaration. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that you're not just waiting for someone to choose you, you're choosing who gets access to you. And in the next part, we're going to talk about what happens when your growth becomes a mirror they can't escape anymore, and how your calm starts confronting them more loudly than any argument ever could. Number 6. The mirror they can't escape anymore. Eventually, your calm becomes a mirror so clear that they can't look at you without finally seeing themselves. My friends, there comes a point in this whole story where the focus quietly shifts. In the beginning, all you could see was them. What they did, what they didn't do, what they said, what they never said. You measured your days by their presence or their silence. But as time passes and you begin to heal, something powerful starts happening. Without even trying, you become the mirror they can't escape anymore. Not a mirror made of revenge or bitterness, but one made of clarity and self-respect. And the thing about a clear mirror is this: it doesn't show people who they pretend to be, it shows them who they are. At first, they still try their old tricks. The casual messages, the half-hearted check-ins, the subtle posts meant to get your attention. They expect the old you to show up. The you that would respond within seconds, write paragraphs, explain your feelings, take blame that wasn't yours, and fight for a connection they treated carelessly. But instead, they're met with something they didn't prepare for. Your calm. Your silence doesn't feel like begging anymore. It feels like a boundary. Your replies, if you give them, don't come soaked in desperation. They come from a grounded place. You don't chase. You don't over-explain. You don't twist yourself into emotional knots just to keep them comfortable. And that change unsettles them far more than any angry outburst ever could. Imagine someone who has always seen their reflection in a funhouse mirror. Everything is stretched, warped, distorted. Their flaws are minimized. Their ego is enlarged. They get used to that version. That's what it was like when they could twist your feelings, gaslight your experience, and use your love as proof that they were always right. But now, it's like they're suddenly standing in front of a clean, honest mirror. No filters, no distortion, just reality. Your calm, your distance, your new standards show them a picture they've been avoiding. I really did lose someone solid. I really did mishandle someone who cared. I really am the one who broke something stable. There's a quote that fits this moment. You weren't asking for too much, you were just asking the wrong person. That realization doesn't usually hit them in one dramatic scene. It sneaks up on them in small, uncomfortable flashes when they compare the attention you used to give them with the emptiness they feel now. When they remember how you listened, how you understood, how you tried to fix things even when you were hurting. When they realize that the calm they felt around you is missing everywhere else. Your calm becomes the standard their life can't meet anymore, and they start to see the gap between who they were with you and who they told themselves they were. Before, they could convince themselves that you were too needy, too emotional, too sensitive. It was easier to label you as the problem than admit they weren't ready for real connection. But now, you're not reacting, you're not chasing, you're not begging for clarity. You've stepped back and built a life where their name doesn't control your mood. And suddenly all those labels don't fit so well. If you were really too much, why does your absence feel this heavy? If you were really the problem, why does their life feel emptier without the very energy they said was too intense? This is what the mirror does. It removes their excuses. They can no longer hide behind your reactions because there are no reactions to hide behind. They can't blame your overthinking when you're not sending them late-night essays anymore. They can't say you're obsessed when you're clearly moving on. What's left is the quiet truth that they weren't as honest, as ready, or as mature as they pretended to be. And whether they admit this to you or not, they feel it. That's why they start acting awkward, inconsistent, or strangely triggered by your peace. It's not that you're attacking them, it's that your growth exposes the places they've stayed the same. Now here's the important part for you to understand. You do not become this mirror by performing. You don't have to fake being over it or pretend to be cold. That's just another costume. The mirror becomes clear when you genuinely start choosing yourself, when you set boundaries without drama, when you stop responding to manipulation, when you show, through your actions, that your heart is not a playground anyone can wander back into without respect. Your authenticity, not your act, is what reflects their truth back to them. But I know it's tempting to want to rub it in, to want them to see exactly how much you've leveled up, to want them to feel every ounce of regret you once felt in their absence. That's normal. You're human. But Stoic power works differently. It doesn't rush to prove anything. It knows that time and truth are better teachers than anger. Your job is not to manage their guilt. Your job is to guard your peace. The mirror is not a weapon, it's a consequence. You might wonder, do they really see what I became? Do they understand what they lost? Do they actually feel anything, or is this all in my head? You may never get a spoken confession. Most people's pride will never allow them to say, I messed up with you. You were good to me, and I didn't know how to handle it. But watch their behavior. Watch how often they circle back, how sensitive they become to your distance, how they react when they realize someone else might be appreciating what they once took for granted. Their discomfort, their sudden interest, their mixed signals. That's the mirror doing its job. Here's the truth that frees you. You don't need their recognition for your growth to be real. Whether they own their mistakes or not, you still rose. You still healed. You still learned. Their ability or inability to face the mirror doesn't cancel the transformation that happened in you. You're no longer living to be understood by them. You're living to be aligned with yourself. So, my friends, let this sink in. Your calm is not emptiness. Your silence is not weakness. Your standards are not walls built out of bitterness. They are the clean glass that reflects every truth you once silenced inside yourself. You will be the moment one day when they think back and realize, I had something rare and I mishandled it. But by then, you won't be standing there waiting for that realization. You'll be too busy living in the peace you built. If this part is resonating with you, if you feel yourself becoming that mirror, I want you to claim it in the comments. Type, my calm is my power. Write it to show them, show yourself, and show the world around you that you have no interest in chasing anyone's approval anymore. Your growth speaks for itself. And in the next part, we're going to step into the most important moment of all. When they finally come back and you're face to face with a choice, repeat the old cycle or protect the new standard you worked so hard to create. Number 7, your decision point. Old cycle or new standard. Life will always give you chances to repeat the same lesson in a different outfit. Your power is deciding when to finally say, no more. My friends, this is the moment everything silently comes together. The late nights, the overthinking, the tears, the silence, the growth, the detachment, all of it leads to this one quiet crossroads, the moment they come back, and you realize something that shocks even you. You're not the same person who once begged for their effort. You're not the same soul who used to twist themselves into knots just to keep them comfortable. You still feel, you still remember, but now there's something standing in front of your feelings, a new guardian, your standards. They appear again, maybe with a message, maybe with a call, maybe in person. Their tone is softer. Their words are sweeter. They might say, I've been thinking about you. I miss you. I made a mistake. And part of your heart leaps. It remembers the old warmth, the inside jokes, the memories that still live in your chest, like they never left. But there's another part of you, now a quieter, stronger part, that doesn't just listen to words. It watches patterns. It remembers the nights you cried alone. It remembers the times you explained how you felt and were made to feel too much. It remembers the breadcrumb attention that kept you hungry but never fed. Imagine you are standing at a door that once led you into a maze before you used to walk through it without even thinking the moment they knocked you opened. Now the door is still there, but next to it there is a mirror, and when you look into it, you see the version of yourself who survived their absence. You see the one who sat with the pain and didn't run, the one who learned to fall asleep without waiting for their goodnight text, the one who started building routines and a life that didn't revolve around their mood. That reflection is your reminder that this decision is not just about whether you still love them, it is about whether you still love yourself. Your mind will throw 1,000 questions at you. What if this is my only chance? What if they really changed? What if I say no and regret it forever? What if no one else will ever understand me the way they did? Fear loves to show up at the exact moment you're about to level up. It will whisper that your standards are too high, that your boundaries are too harsh, that you're being cold. But here's the truth, my friends. You are not being cold. You are being clear, and people who benefited from your confusion will always be threatened by your clarity. There's a lie many of us carry deep inside. If someone comes back, it means we were chosen, and if we say no, we're the foolish ones. But sometimes the real foolishness is letting someone who broke you once walk right back into the most fragile parts of you without proof that they know how to handle your heart. This time, love does not erase the need for responsibility. You can still feel something for them and still say, I need to see consistency, not just emotion. Your feelings are not a contract. Their regret is not a free pass back into your life. Ask yourself different questions this time, not, do I still care? Because we both know you do not. Could this maybe work? Because hope will always say yes. Ask, does this version of them match the version of me I'm becoming? Do their actions align with the peace I worked so hard to build? If nothing changed except their words, would I end up back in the same pain 6 months from now? Your future self is counting on you in this moment. She or he is looking back, thinking, please don't trade my peace for temporary relief again. Please don't shrink back into old patterns just because you're afraid to be alone. Think of your heart as a throne for a long time. You let people sit there without proving they knew how to honor it. They came in with dirty intentions and pretty faces, and you let them stay because you thought, at least someone is here. Now you've been alone in that room, you've cleaned it, you've decorated it with your own growth, your own hobbies, your own healing, your own quiet joy. If someone wants a seat there now, it can't be because they're bored or lonely or curious. It has to be because they are ready to show up with respect, with effort, with honesty. And if they're not, you have every right to keep that throne empty until someone worthy appears. This decision point will hurt no matter what you choose. If you let them back in, you'll feel fear. If you don't, you'll feel grief. But not all pain is equal. One kind of pain keeps you stuck in the same cycle. Another kind of pain frees you to grow. The pain of saying no to what isn't healthy is the kind that builds you the pain of saying yes. Just because you're scared to lose them is the kind that slowly eats at you from the inside. You've already been there. You already know how that story feels. There's a powerful quote for this moment. You don't rise by going back to what broke you. You rise by honoring what it taught you. Honoring the lesson doesn't always mean slamming the door. Sometimes it means moving slowly, observing without getting emotionally drunk on nostalgia. Sometimes it means giving a chance with boundaries. Sometimes it means closing the chapter gracefully and saying, I wish you well, but I wish myself peace more. This is not cruelty, this is wisdom. And here's the shift that matters the most when they come back. It's no longer about, do they want me? It's about, do I want this version of love in my life anymore? Your silence has shown you something precious. You can survive without them. You can laugh again without them. You can rebuild your life without them. Once you know that you are no longer negotiating from fear, you're choosing from strength. My friends, if you've reached this point in your journey, I want you to understand something very clearly. You are not the same person they left behind. You are wiser, softer in the right places, stronger in the right places. Your standards are not walls, they are doors with locks, and you hold the key. You are allowed to choose peace over history. You are allowed to choose your sanity over a second chance. You are allowed to choose your rebirth over their regret. If this last part spoke to you, if you feel yourself standing at that decision point right now, I want you to make a public promise to your future self. In the comments type, I choose my peace and my power. Write it to show them, show yourself and show the world around you that you are done repeating cycles that break you. If this entire message has helped you see your story differently, do me a favor. My friends, hit the like button, share this video with someone who's about to go back to what hurt them, and make sure you're subscribed so you never miss another reminder of your worth. Your growth matters, your peace matters, your future matters more than their comeback. This isn't just their second chance, it's your rebirth, and I'm proud of the person you're becoming.